Hello. Welcome to any combo lords joining me here. I did already do a live video earlier today that was more natural themed, where, if you want to flashback on the live tab later, we did get a very rare squirrel moment. The first time a squirrel ate a nut directly from my hand here. We are definitely befriending those squirrels quite well. But in this second half of a live streamy video, whatever I'm putting out today, I did want to include some mathematics, and it's going to be a mildly silly sort of mathematics in terms of being analytical, thinking about what it means to be a number or a proof, but more so analyzing a very silly, chaotic, untrue proof. This is a tale of a story that I read a couple years ago and put in the shelf of my notes of maybe I'll make a bonus video about this someday, but I'm getting ready to start editing more real bonus videos and shorts again for this channel, and I have too many in my catalogs, too many ideas for me to dedicate a whole bonus video. Maybe we'll see in the future. For now, I don't think I got the time to do a whole bonus or episode on my combo class channel, where the best episodes go, about a fake proof of this sort. However, when I reread through it earlier today, I thought it's at least good enough to make a live video explaining my thoughts about, because although some of the general logic that makes this proof false is pretty simple to understand where it went wrong, other parts of it come at all sorts of directions of wrongness. Sometimes proofs do that, because if you're just throwing something together, you might be wrong in many ways. Let's say you're right in half the ways, wrong in half the ways. Well, there's a lot of ways to do a thing in a proof, so you'd end up being wrong a lot of the ways. And when you write an official proof, you tighten those and check them with other people and check them with other statistics and change them and edit them and bring them toward a good goal. But some people have the bad habit of saying when they have a cool idea, instead of saying, this is my hypothesis, saying, I have a proof, and often even arguing with anybody who tries to point out the errors in it. Now, I believe the word proof should be held to a slightly high esteem and almost holy status, where we should just use the word proof when we really do think we are more than 99% sure, just not ourselves, but in some checked way, that I have checked this with other humans, or I have studied this subject for long enough, or some certain ways like that. And I suppose these people do believe that. But I honestly have some fun pointing out errors in proofs, both to show flaws in writing proofs, and when we get a little mocking about it, it's because sometimes you gotta shoot down a little cockiness. Now, when you put a proof out to the world, similar to me putting a video out to the world, you're basically offering yourself on a pedestal to be roasted. Like, all the comments are open here, there's no banned words in the comments or whatever. You could roast me any way you choose in the comment. I mean, if you say something that's offensive toward a type of group of people, I might remove the comment, but you call me nerdy, roast some point of my character, roast some point of my look, roast some way that I am behind in some aspect of adulthood. Yeah, I'll try and laugh along with you. I'm putting myself on the pedestal to allow that. So people who publish something that they call a proof are putting that on a pedestal as well, to say, this is allowed to be criticized. And some of these people are bad at taking criticism, but even though they're not listening, we sometimes point out the flaws, both to show the errors in proof making and to show the problems with human cockiness. Humans believing that when they feel something so true that it must be true for the whole world. Trust me, I've had many fun hypotheses. I just try and hold back from calling them proofs yet. Now, sometimes I do hesitate to mock somebody's fake proof too far, because it feels like punching downward. Like, I have people watching me, they don't have as many people commenting on their proof. It feels, you don't want to be the popular guy roasting the less popular person who didn't ask for it, in certain contexts, it can come across almost like bullying, which of course I don't want to convey. And, however, today's subject is punching upward. This guy's a celebrity. This guy deserves whatever criticism he can get. This guy's been rich. This guy got to spend his whole life working on what he calls, well, his current life. He got to quit his job and just work on teriology, as he calls his phenomena and his descriptions of the mathematical universe that he has proven. So, if somebody's rich enough to quit their day job and work on some crazy theory all day, I'm allowed to criticize that theory, and today we have some criticisms to bring, because not only is this, a famous person who maybe somewhat went a little off the rails or whatever, got a little crazier at times, over believing certain things that they thought might be true about reality and thinking, I must pursue this singular thing, as opposed to having a wider perspective of many things to think about throughout the day. But also, the proof itself is claiming that, is claiming that 1 times 1 equals 2. Now, the proofs we've mocked before are people who think they have proven an unsolved conjecture in math that has been really studied, and that their proof of it is so simplistic that it's foolish for them to be cocky about it. In this case, it's more like this guy thinks he disproved the whole structure of math. Now, of course, we could make up a system where times and equals mean different things. We could make up a system where 1 times 1 equals 2 because the time symbol means a different thing. But then we have to change every single other rule of math and start from scratch. Not every rule in every field of math. Maybe it won't affect topology, but we have to reset our arithmetic rules. We have to say, okay, does the commutative property still apply? Time to reprove that. Does the associative property still apply? Time to reprove that. Is it still true that 2 negatives add to a negative? So, the problem with some of these proofs is redefining a single aspect and then just tweaking whatever parts of the other system you want, and ignoring the fact that your bigger tweak will completely alter the system, and everything that was formerly proven is no longer proven in the same arithmetic. So, somebody sent me $2 of criticism, thanks to Bardley Richard. I'm just taking a peek at the comments real quick. That's real nice. That always helps our mission to expand our combo goals. And thank you to everyone else leaving comments as well. And to people say they don't want to roast me because I'm cool and smart, well, sometimes it's good to be roasted, so be on the lookout for if there's a moment you need to roast me. Maybe once every 5th live stream, I might do something totally roastable. So, I'm not going to put myself on a pedestal either, just in case I accidentally become rich or a celebrity someday. Can't let myself be cocky in advance. We got to shoot that ego down while we're starting. I'm kind of joking, but me and my friends have held a roast before. We actually literally held a roast where we signed up, and it was anyone who signed up to be a roaster was also a roastee. If you signed up for both, like, do you want to roast people? And they get to come at you however they want. They get to say whatever they want about you, and you're not allowed to get mad after. It's a roast. And, oh my God, that was, a bee. Whoa, it's a bee right there. It's okay. It looks like a honeybee-ish wasp thing, no hornet dealio. Those things aren't too bad. In fact, they're very good. They pollinate. So, we're going to welcome the bee. But the roast was one of the funniest times I've had in my life. One of the hardest I've ever laughed, probably, was that roast. Because not only did I get to just say the most ridiculous comical roasts at my friends, like strange habits and stuff, but they did it to me too. And so when you're when you get roasted, if you're in the right mood, it's actually very funny. It's actually like everyone should know they have weak sides to their character and strong sides to their character. Now, I'm a little further on the imbalanced end of that too. A little bit on the idiot savant, maybe 2% autistic, I don't know, end where I'm a little more divided of like, I'm really good at certain things, and then I have more than average amount of things that I'm sort of bad at or behind at. Unfortunately, technology is one of those, so just wait till we get all our inevitable stream glitches. But like I happen, I will even brag about the things that I'm good at because I try and throw in mixes of the things I'm behind at. I'm 30 and I live practically in my parents' backyard. I don't own a car, don't have that much money saved. So, I don't have a girlfriend. There's a lot we could roast about me. And when we roast character traits, then we can feel even more free to brag about the good things about the characters. Gives a balanced sandwich. Sometimes you can give even, like a sandwich. The compliment sandwich technique. You tell someone something cool about themselves, then you throw in a little roast, and then you go back to cool so that, you get a good wrap up on either end of the roast. Now, don't do this technique of roasting being good to random strangers who you don't know if they will enjoy it or not. Me and my friends have a very, mutual understanding that life's crazy and we're going to laugh at it together and we're going to laugh at each other because we have different skills and different weaknesses. And me and my friends have that understanding. But if you don't have that understanding with someone, then, roast lightly to start. Cat's going up a tree again. A fence. But he's going toward the tree. He might be trying to get those squirrels. You're not going to get a squirrel, Sassafras. What are you going to do if you get a squirrel? It's like a third of your size. Okay. So, anyway. That was a little commentary to make myself feel better about the fact that we might roast the hell out of a little proof that this guy made. Another reason why I'm not going to feel as bad. Here's the actor, by the way. Terrence Howard was an actor. I don't know actors, so I don't know what degree this guy's crazy, famous or whatever. But I know what degree he's crazy. I just don't know what degree he's crazy famous. But here, he seems like he was in a lot of stuff. He was the lead character in this show. He had a lot of prominent roles. He got Academy Award nominations, stuff like that. Now, another reason I don't feel as bad mocking this guy is when you look at this section. You don't want a section on your Wikipedia page about abuse and harassment. If you have a section titled this, that is a terrible sign. So it looks like this guy's abusive to people in his life. So this guy probably sucks anyway, even though a lot of famous celebrities suck. So this guy seems like he's one of those because he has all these abuse charges. So let's roast the hell out of this guy's proof. He made this thing that he calls teriology. He also he quit acting. It looks like he completely quit only last year, only like a little over half a year ago, but he started fading off from acting. You could see like these are all the things he was, and then he's not playing as much after this certain point. And in these years, and here's another, like in television, less stuff in there. He was doing some strange experiments related to bubbles, related to connecting little pieces of wire or something together. We're going to look at an article about that. And related to a presentation he dropped on the world on the what some people call like a global town square or something, but I've never quite believed that, and I do think that it is proven untrue now. The site Twitter, which I'm going to call Twitter because I'm not going to call it X. That's going to fail. The Twitter has the word tweet in dictionaries. They're one of the biggest brand names in the world. Not that I like that or like them. I've never spent time on Twitter. I don't like it. But on there, it's one of the biggest brands in history. They've gotten in the dictionary with words like tweet. Even retweet might be in the dictionary too. Or even subtweet, stuff like that. It's like crazy the way that vocabulary has infiltrated society. Oh man, this dumb guy, Elon Musk. I used to think that guy was kind of smart because he was like, out of all the billionaires, like interested in space, knew how to joke around or something, but nah, that guy is not smart. These years have proven that guy is not only an idiot, but kind of dangerous. So I predicted when he first started making these changes on Twitter that I was like, good thing I never spent time making a combo class account there, because it's probably just going to die now that he has started making these really impulsive decisions on it. A few months later, a few more impulsive decisions later, the site's called X. He's trying to remove people being able to block each other. He's reinstating accounts practically only of people who are incredibly hateful or even posting very offensive material. I don't want to click on the front page here. That'll probably make my stream get flagged or something. This site is a bad place usually and seems to have gotten worse. So sorry to any fans of that. I used to think that Elon Musk was one of the cooler billionaires, but time has maybe proven otherwise. Now, here on Twitter, as I'm going to call it, because I do believe that the X thing is going to die, the company is going to completely collapse, but the word tweet will still be in some history books. So we'll call it Twitter. I believe the future aliens will understand better if I say we're on Twitter than we're on X, because this will be a shorter span of its life. This will be the dying breaths. Now, who knows? You never know. I'm not a tech whiz, but I would not be shocked if it is completely... I mean, what does it take to call it completely dead? They've already lost like half their advertisement money, I think, and like half their users probably. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're down to like 10% of their users and 10% of their advertisers before long. Now, here is something that was posted on there, though. It is, some people call it the global town square for market ideas or whatever. So, while I have some mockeries to say about Twitter itself, there's been interesting things posted on it in history. And one of those interesting things is this post. This has got to be one of the greatest posts of all time, just for what it says about humanity. This post was on November 1st, 2017. It says by Terrence Howard that this is the proof. And so this is part of his teriology idea. He had mentioned to people, I think before this, and certainly after, that in teriology, 1 × 1 = 2. I love the nickname. It's just so goofy. Yeah, so all of a sudden in Domotrology, 2 + 2 = 5. It's okay. Teriology, 1 × 1 = 2. So this is when he spent some time to write multiple pages and write down a proof. And he argued with people in the comments. I don't want to try and find that because I swear this site it's going to accidentally stumble upon like some like terrible stuff. I don't know. Something that gets my stream flagged. Stuff I practically don't even want to talk about. I wouldn't even be shocked if it's on the front page of this site. Now, we'll just trust me that I've read that he argued in the comments with everybody who was like, well, here's a little error with it, or like, well, what about this? Now, if you make a proof and you're pretty sure it's a proof and you're really, really sure and you're like, I'm going to call it a proof. Okay, I'll accept that as long as you're willing to take criticism. The best proofs have required editing. Fermat's last theorem wasn't finished until a year after it was presented. He had to tweak some edits. If Andrew Wiles had been like, no, I proved it, even though he basically had, and is a better mathematician than, any of us or any of the people making false proofs or me, he still was like, okay, where's the criticism? What do I need to fix? that's another reason why I think that it's okay for us to shoot down false proofs and tell people, turn that word proof into hypothesis, is because math builds on itself. I mean, in general life, I believe in honesty. I have been a very, very honest person, at least in the past few years. I've tried to be throughout my life, but there's been times I was dishonest with family members or friends or whatever at random times, which I have now fixed and remedied and explained. But I've been incredibly honest since an incident I had a few years ago. Somewhat changed my perspective on life and on myself. And with that, I don't think, there's no way to get you to believe this, but out of the hundreds of hours of live streams, I have not ever intentionally told a lie. And I don't even think I've accidentally told a lie, because I try and be careful with my words, even though who knows if I accidentally said something wrong because I talk really quick. But I promise you, I have not purposefully stretched any truths. I want the aliens to know the truth. So I believe in truths, and even more so in mathematics. Truths build on each other. You know, it took 1 + 1 = 2 and 1 × 1 doesn't equal 2 to build further bits of arithmetic. So, you know, we don't want people to start building little bridges and towers on concepts that are just going to collapse when what they're built on turns out wasn't deserving of the term proof. Now, of course, this is all done in, I hope, good faith or whatever. If for some reason someone who I've mocked their proof of before, except Terrence Howard. If it's Terrence Howard, I don't know, you're a rich guy. Donate some of your money and go to therapy. But to anyone else who I mocked their proofs of, I have said before, I think people who try this are cooler than any people who don't try this. What I'm shooting down is the cockiness and the stretching of certain words into from the line of guesses to truths. Now, this one goes even further. We're going to have to jump into this proof that he said. This is the proof, and this was on, November 1st, 2017. He said, this is the proof to the world of science and mathematics that 1 × 1 = 2. Now, remember, like I said earlier, just in case you missed it, I noted we could redefine a system where times means something else, and that equation is true. But that would change every other rule of math. He's not going for that. He's going for keep all the other rules of math, except for a few that he's going to change based on this fact he likes. Now, hashtag mathematics, hashtag world of science, hashtag proof, at Rolling Stone. Isn't that like the magazine that does like rock and roll pop culture stuff? They're certainly named after, I think, the Rolling Stones, the band, and they used to, at least in the past, do like rock and roll based stuff. Why is this guy trying to get Rolling Stone to try and do this? That's not a good sign of someone's mathematical background, even just from the get-go, that is the source they tag for their proof. Rolling Stone magazine, not like even like a pop culture thing, like say Quanta magazine is like a magazine that's about math, or I don't know. So we have to look at this proof. I do need to run inside, use the bathroom real quick, grab some water before I delve deep into this. I will leave this on the screen and shrink myself a bit so that you can get a head start. Leave a comment with what you think is going wrong here. There are multiple right answers because there are many things going wrong here. So I'm going to come back within 5 minutes and explain through this. I think it's 4 pages of proof. If anyone leaves early, make sure you have checked out my latest main combo class episode. In the description, it's linked. It's about friendly numbers. And I'm working on the next one, the next main episode on the combo class channel. Should be out this weekend probably, but I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I'm not going to rush it. It could be out anywhere from like Friday to Monday. It's I'm working on a lot of interesting scenes for that one. So I'll be back shortly. Leave a comment with if you see a squirrel in the background or what you think is the most egregiously wrong thing about this proof. Alright folks, I am back and I brought one apple that I picked one time. So one time I picked one apple. How many apples do I have? I got one apple, right? So what I mean by that analogy is just that this proof we're about to look at is someone saying 1 times 1 equals 2. And I would argue that if we redefine math in a way where 1 times 1 isn't 1, we shouldn't even use the word times to be the symbol that you're trying to describe, because the times is like a word we use. 1 time I picked an apple. If I picked 2 times, I picked 2 apples, I'd have 4. 2 times 2 is 4. So we would have to actually even change the fact that we call the multiplication sign times, or change the entire language so that if I say 1 time I picked 1 apple, that means I have 2. Now, let's begin with this fella's proof. Now, one last note. I just feel kind of bad whenever I mock somebody, but then I also think that it's good for the world and funny. So the last note is that if this fella's going through some bad mental health problems or whatever, it seems like he is like focused enough that it's not just purely like a really bad psychotic break or anything. But I can relate to people who have hard mental health issues. I have some conditions of my own. And there's, so if this guy's just going through a bunch of mental health stuff, sorry for mocking you, Terrence. Go get some therapy. Go work on this instead of trying to tell the world 1 times 1 is 2. All right. Now, first and foremost, this is in his words, not my words. First and foremost, let us ask the most obvious question. Is this a finished equation? Yes or no? Which equation? He didn't even write an equation. Okay, wait. Unbalanced equation argument. 1 times 1 doesn't equal 1. Well, which equation is he talking about? The equation 1 times 1 doesn't equal 1? Or the equation 1 times 1 equals 1 and he just doesn't, is just chilling there? So he didn't mention an equation yet, but is this a finished equation? Yes or no? The answer is no. Let us start our forensic audit here. There. It is an incomplete equation. Why? Because it's not even on both sides. By even, I believe he means the type of even that's like equal, like the same amount. What he means is that there's the wrong amount of terms on each side. Which, okay, if we want to fix that, let's just put plus 0. 1 times 1 equals 1 plus 0. Fixed. But okay, because it's not even on both sides. Yes. Nature desires action but demands equilibrium. Now, this is where a lot of proofs can go wrong, is tying in some philosophical, real-world concept into your pure math. It's a different story if you're trying to say how 1 times 1 relates to the equilibrium of the universe, or how you're trying to say what works right within the system of math. Pure math is its own little foundation underlying a lot of other aspects of reality, and he's trying to prove a pure math statement with a calls out to nature and stuff. Now, someday maybe we'll look through the list of logical fallacies, which many have been named and notated and such, and I believe you could find many here. So leave a comment if you note any particular names of a logical fallacy in, logic history that you notice being applied here. Now, therefore, in order for an equation to be finished, completed, both sides of the equation must be equally balanced. Yet, in the case of 1 times 1 equals 1, we have an unfinished equation. Because we have 2 on... This is what I was explaining. Okay. We will call the first value of 1 A. Okay. We'll call the second value of 1 B. Okay. We'll call the third value of 1 C. Okay. So we have the equation A times B equals C. Okay. Remember the basic laws of common sense. If A times B equals C, then C must be the product of A and B. Well, yes. It's a bad sign of a proof, too, when they say things that are filler. A proof doesn't usually have room for filler. A proof can sometimes take 100 pages without the filler. So it's like, You can say this so much quick. You don't say in your proof, oh, let's not jump the gun. Something's weird here. I mean, you can say that in your hypothesis or in your philosophical essay, but not proof language. Now, remember the basic laws of common sense and all this stuff. Let's try and add 1 to both sides. Okay, 1 times 1 plus 1 equals 1 plus 1. Still should work right. Okay. Now, whoa, associative and commutative laws. Okay, now we're getting a little off. So, first of all, there's not one law called the associative and commutative law. If you're quoting these, which you don't need to, mathematicians know what these are. You could, if it was true, you'd just say, by the associative property. You don't need to define something that trivial. Now, it says when they're positive integers, it's one statement in quotes for associative and commutative law. What? That's like saying, like, the definition for primes and composites is one statement. It's like, no, wait, you're talking about 2 different things. So, just to be extra clear, what we're going to do real quick, and pardon all those noises in the background, it is some kids in the neighborhood have fun on a trampoline. It's trampoline noises, so I can't blame them. I've chatted with the family. They're cool. Kids need to have fun on a trampoline once in a while. So sorry, folks. Your audio may be at the expense of that, but I'm not going to interrupt some kids having fun on the trampoline. I already interrupt their playtime enough with my clock smoke and craziness. Now, here, let's look at what I wanted to show is, let's see what like Wolfram Alpha will be a good, clear, very concise definition that is agreed upon of what these terms mean. Now, Wolfram Alpha defines the commutative property of multiplication, because different things can be commutative in different ways, says that A times B equals B times A. This is actually not what I was looking for right here. It's a weird, one of the demonstration things, but it says that A times B equals B times A. Then the associative property is basically about things distributing properly when you have parentheses. So the associative property is like if I have A times... The associative property doesn't even need to distribute addition. It's distributing it works either way when it's multiplication. It's basically saying if I have A times B times C, I can stick parentheses around any part of that and it's the same. A times B times C is the same as A times B times C, or stuff like that. If I have a string that's only multiplication, we end up being able to stick parentheses anywhere. Now, he says that these are one law that says that when A and B are positive integers, that A is to be added to itself as many times as there are units in B. This is just so out of left field. This is neither of the definitions. This is like saying the definition of prime numbers and composite numbers is an arbitrarily large size defines things that can be infinite but not. It's like, you're just talking about like 5 things at once. So this is weird because this, I don't know why he thinks this is the associative and commutative law. But then he says, so it's added and you get 2. This to him makes it look like 3 equals 2. And why is this? Why does he think this is 3? When A and B are positive integers, so A and B are 1s, then, oh, sorry, I need somebody running the tech on these live streams. Okay, when we have just a little more budget, I'm going to be able to hire Carlo or my other friends or people like that to run the tech on these things so that while I'm delivering a long rant, I will actually notice someone else will notice that you can't see the screen. So anyway, Remember the basic laws of... Okay, wait, that was all the way up here. We were all the way down here on this page. So he thinks 3 is 2. I was looking back here to see... A and B are positive integers. Yes. A is to be added to itself as many times as there are units in B. No. So this is one of the main fundamental problems he has here. Is that there's kind of 2 problems. Because when we get to the next page, he has this whole separate issue. But on this one, his main thing leading him wrong is thinking, well, to multiply something by 1 means I already have it, and then I multiply the 1 on top. But like I said, we use times for multiplication. If you have one thing 1 time, you have that. 2 things 2 times is 4. And we would have to redefine everything, and all these older things he was saying wouldn't even necessarily be true if we would hit paradoxes and contradictions if we start saying, like, well, 2 times 3 means you start with 2 and then you add 3 more 2's. So it's actually like 2 times 4. So this would change a lot of things about it, because we wouldn't be able to properly scale numbers. It's hard to explain. This might be an episode topic someday, why multiplication and addition are defined exactly how they are. But we couldn't scale it quite right if you have 0 times means keep it, and then negative times, it's like, is negative amount of times going to mean shrink it, or you actually have a negative quantity? So it's like negative times would have to mean one of those maybe. But in our system, like, the range between multiplying by 1 and multiplying by 0 is the shrinking range. The range under 0 is the flip to negative range, assuming you're starting positive. And the range over 1 is the growing range. So we get the ranges better the way it's defined. It's a little hard to explain why, but kind of fun challenge if you want to think through it yourself. If you were to change any of these laws, what contradictions would you hit? I mean, obviously he's hit a contradiction. His system ends up making 3 equals 2. But this is the funny thing. He likes his premise so much that he's like, my premise demonstrated 3 equals 2. And that means that my premise is right and all of mathematics is wrong. No, it's like, what? If I was following a chain of something I was investigating and I got to 3 equals 2, I'd be like, oh man, I must have messed up somewhere. Must have had some incomplete assumption or something. Anyway, this is just the start, because page 2, or where's this one where he had a total... Yeah, so this is like a... Is this actually the beginning, or... Wait, hold up. Is this like out of order or something? Which one's page 1? This should be page 1, I guess. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, page 2 is more along the same lines as page 1. We're going to go through this one quicker. Page 3 is wrong in like a different way. So, okay. Well, now let's subtract 1. It's like, why are you still trying to prove it? If you prove 3 equals 2 under your thing, we get it. Your assumption implies that if we're following it, all of math needs to change somehow. You made 3 equals 2. You don't need to keep going and make 1 equals 0. It's like, we get, if your assumption is held, 3 equals 2. Now, he also proves here, okay, 1 equals 0 then. Could have done this a lot easier just by taking this thing and just said in one sentence, subtracting 3 from each side. This also demonstrates 1 equals 0. But you know, sometimes in the false proofs, they like to do what I do in a live stream, which is rant a lot. Now, here, when we're going downward in our proof here, let's see what else he throws on this page before we get to like this whole next section. Now, he said that once again, he thinks that A times B means add A to itself as many times as B, which would mean that 1 times 2 means keep the 1 and add 2, which is the amount you'd have if you did something 3 times under the right system. Now, it's not right, but any system can work. But his system will hit contradictions. The system we have works pretty good. I'm not saying you shouldn't look for strange ways to extend it and break it. Break the system as much as you can. But know that when you break it, you're fiddling around with systems that probably will now have more inconsistencies than the system that has been sort of honed over many, many years of math to have not that many inconsistencies. There are things weird, there are paradoxes in math. You know, Gödel's incompleteness theorem we'll cover before too long, but the system we have works pretty dang good out of all the possible systems of arithmetic, and that's why we settled on it after a lot of research and many, many years of exploration. Now, this assumption is what's throwing him off on this page. But here it's just like, what are these terms? The waves of arithmetic and waves of multiplication converge. Now, by arithmetic, I think he means addition. So he just means addition there. And by waves, he's just throwing in this philosophical vibe to what he feels like they are. Which, trust me, I love philosophical vibes, but that should be your fun book you write after or before your proof. We don't need the philosophical vibes until maybe your introductory and concluding paragraphs or whatever, when you've actually demonstrated something. Now, and to re-emphasize, this is only mocking over cockiness with telling other people things are true when it's not true. But this isn't mocking exploration or hypotheses. Just remember, Combo Lords, hypothesis is a good word. Making a hypothesis that you slowly get higher confidence in is awesome and cool and majestic. So keep making hypotheses if you can. Just only call them proofs when they are, a little more steady than this one. Like, what is this in the proof? And pardon my French, bullshit on 1 times 1 equal, in parentheses, ing 1. Sorry for swearing. I'm not going to censor a word like that. It's not that bad of a word. But who puts that in a proof? Now, let me just read through this, because it's just like some interesting paragraphs. You see what happens when you follow the clear and expressed rules of the associative and commutative laws. The equation is balanced on both sides of the equal sign. The only logical reason for 1 times 1 to ever equal or to have ever equaled 1 is because someone forgot to follow the basic rules of multiplication. Otherwise, someone forgot. It's like, bro, so many people have been doing math. Someone forgot? You think just everybody doing math since, like, Pythagoras has just been trusting Pythagoras and he got something wrong? This stuff's been double-checked a billion times. Euler came to many of the same conclusions that people on other continents came to. So, it's like, it's not someone forgot. We would have to say is because millions of people dedicated many mistaken years by missing the rules of multiplication. Not necessarily millions of current mathematicians, but over the years. Otherwise, there's no way, and mathematician is a vaguer term than some people make it out to be. So I would say there are millions of mathematicians because there are millions of people who at some point in their year do something mathematical they enjoy. So, those are mathematicians. But otherwise, there's no... And it's kind of like, this is sort of a diss to anyone else who has studied math. Saying to anyone else, like implying that you're just an idiot for trusting somebody else who messed up. As opposed to you actually having thought through the logic yourself. Now, otherwise, there's no way to make mathematical sense of or solve the impossible hypothesis of 1 times 1 equals 1. I hereby call in this bit. On that note, I must immediately declare that 1 times 1 equal ing. I loved it. This is just the like, he didn't know how to phrase this right. The equal and in parentheses, ing, even when he's already in parentheses. That's beautiful. 1 times 1 equaling 1 is a false statement. And likewise, based on the current practices in the field of mathematics, 1 times any number would be an unfinished equation. So here's the thing, is he like diverts from this premise. At other times, he's saying 1 times 1 works. It equals 2. Here he says 1 times 1 equals 2. Here he says 1 times anything doesn't work. So it's like, I know you have all these interesting ideas, but just if you think about it even for a moment, all the ideas you're putting together contradict each other. Now, because this. Here is another whole rabbit hole, is page 3. If 1 times 1 equals 1, 3 equals 2, 1 equals 0, A times B equals A. What? Where did this come from? Okay. I don't know where that came from, but then all these impossible reality. Wait, where is the bit where he was talking about? There's like this really notable bit. Why can't I find that? Where he was talking about how he studied in school the square root of 4. I swear that was in one of his proofs. Let me look this up real quick. There was like a bit I remember reading that was like, in school the square root of 4 did something, or maybe I'm mixing this up of another proof. Square root of 4 teriology. Yes, so here, look. Here is, maybe this was before he wrote his formal proof. The formal proof formalized it, but here was what kind of got him carried away on this whole thing. This quote says so much about people being so adamant about something they believed at a point that felt good to believe, that now they feel like they must believe it forever. Now, here, where is the quote about this? Here. Okay. Here's another thing he said about teriology. This, I guess, isn't in the proof. But look at this. He says, he gets in an argument with a professor about what 1 times 1 equals. How can it equal 1, he said. If 1 times 1 equals 1, that means 2 is of no value, because 1 times itself has no effect. What? 1 times 1 equals 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. So what's the square root of 2? Should be 1, but we're told it's 2. And this is such an interesting, like, lore moment. This is like in the show Lost, where they would do flashbacks and you figure out, like, why this crazy stuff was currently happening based on someone's past. This seems to be why he went down this rabbit hole. He misheard a professor once or something that the square root of 2 is 2. So he insists that we're told the square root of 2 is 2. It's like, bro, we're told that? I was never told that. And should be 1 is also wrong. And that cannot be. That did not go over well, probably just meaning the professor was like, no, that's not true, here's some inconsistencies, and that he got really flustered and mad or something because he was arguing with some comments in Twitter I saw about his proof. So he left school over this. So, folks, if you guys come up with a hypothesis you think's a proof and none of your professors believe it, keep working on it, but don't quit school over it. Now, I mean, I quit school over other reasons, but don't quit school over a proof like this. I mean, you can't conform to what you know innately, that something is wrong, he says. Now, here's other things that exist in teriology before we get back to the proof. Bubbles don't have to be round. Since I was a child of 3 or 4, I was always wondering, this is his words, not mine, well, actually, here's the thing. This would be my words too. This is many people's words. Many people have thought all of this except for the last one, maybe. Since I was a child of 3 or 4, I was always wondering, why does a bubble take the shape of a ball? Why not a triangle or a square? That's a relatable thought. I'm sure many of us have had it. I've certainly had that thought. I've figured it out. Now, maybe some of us have had that thought or had the thought like I read about it and learned about it. But here's the thing. He is implying that other people didn't know this. And I figured it out is implying that it wasn't known before why bubbles are spheres. Now, you can think about many reasons a bubble would be a sphere, one of which is that it's the minimal surface area per volume. But we'll do an episode about that because I actually filmed some very rare content about a sphere-based episode about spheres in different dimensions and about why things get spherical. So that actually will be an episode before long, but it's not going to be about what he figured out. It's going to be about what many, many humans have deduced about bubbles themselves. Now, and what a few mathematicians have proven about upper dimensional bubbles, but that's a later episode. Now, here, teriology is different. With teriology, does he say what he thinks they are? He says that, okay, what you see and perceive are different from what is possible. Sure. Let's maybe define possible a little more before you use this as leverage for your next statement, though. Perhaps bubbles are only round because we allow them to be. Maybe it's just like we're brainwashed. We're just gaslit into someone told us bubbles are round. Okay, bubbles are round, and so we see them that way. Definitely has nothing to do with the fact that a sphere actually maximizes many great traits such as surface area to volume ratios. Nothing to do with that. It's because we were told that they should be round, and so we're gaslit into believing that. So it affects our reality. Now, I'm not even like a hyper atheist person. I'm more agnostic. Who knows what is going on with perception and possibility? But you can't use that as leverage for a proof about bubbles. Now, what else did he have? So he had all these wacky thoughts. So this is a fun. Okay, I like this. Surround yourself with whimsical objects. This sounds great until one sentence in here. Look, it's going to sound so good until one sentence. This is the last century our children will ever have been taught that when... Oh, no, never mind. It's only the title that's good. The title's good. You should surround yourself with... We got so many whimsical objects. Do you think I don't surround myself with whimsical objects? Now, however, his definition of that is that you should work on your whimsical... These are not whimsical. I don't know why he thinks whimsical means you spend 17 hours on a craft project. That's going to lose that whimsy real quick. 17 hours a day. This guy needs some help. The thing is, he seems like crazy, and I don't mean that part in a mean way. Like, I'll repeat. I have been diagnosed with conditions. We can talk about that later. Mild versions of things. But I can relate to people who have trouble with different mental conditions. And in fact, I'll just say, one thing I was diagnosed with, which I don't know how accurate this is or not, because one doctor believed it, and the next doctor thought it was less so, is that I might be mildly bipolar. And it seems like when I have mania, it is so mild that another third doctor said that they thought it might be like what they're calling it now is cyclo something. I don't know. There's no need to analyze what's going on in there too much because the names don't always help. It's such a crazy potion up in my brain, at least, that I'm probably 20% of a few conditions, but luckily not of 80% on any of them. But This sounds like a much worse version of something like bipolar, possibly, when you get to a state of mania. Where, to me, I've never had a terrible state of mania. I have months where I am much more addicted to a project and like overly hyped and excited and think it's really important, but in a mild enough way that the doctors weren't even all sure whether that's the right name for what I have. But this sounds like a state of mania. This guy's spent 17 hours a day to prove these craft projects he makes. So it's kind of sad, but like I said, the dude's rich and the dude's trying to trick people into thinking that math's not trustworthy. So we got to roast it a little bit. If Terry wants to roast me, he can feel free. Terrence can go on his live stream and roast the hell out of me. Now, I'm looking up real quick if I can find a picture of his sculptures. So, what are the things he spent 17 hours a day on? Okay, they look kind of cool, but I think he spent years making it look like this. Now, here's the thing. This looks incredibly cool, but he thinks this proves something. So, okay, he built a really cool looking thing. Obviously, another example of if he built this, not only does it prove he's rich, but it also proves he spent too many hours per day on it. Unless he just got it installed or something. Or maybe he just spent like 10 years on this and not much money. But it looks cool. But his things are like crazy as crazy does. Do the math. What's math about this? Well, you could say like light refractions are a certain thing, but you can't just tell somebody, look at this. This proves teriology. This proves that because the crystals are wrong, that means the bubbles are wrong, means that the 1 times 1 thing is correct. Teriology, baby. So, careful with what you use as evidence. This is a beautiful sculpture. It is not evidence of anything mathematical until we actually decide to analyze light refractions or whatever. So, that's pretty wacky, and we didn't even finish his proof. We were just on, I was looking for that thing about him thinking the square root of 2 was 2, which is such an interesting lore of it to me that I think that's what first got him off. That he's heard once, square root of 2 is something, and 2. And he was like spaced out in class or something and heard it wrong, or maybe the teacher said it wrong, and it was square root of 2 is 2. And from that point onward, he decided that that is how it's been taught to everybody. It's not only having a lot of faith in himself, it's having a lot of faith in any book he's read and any teacher he's had. Like, your teachers aren't perfect. You might have a later teacher who changes the way they describe what that person did and does it a little different. But, you know, sometimes to add, you need to subtract or change as well. But this guy's thinking, one time I heard square root of 2 is 2. That means everybody was taught that, and that everybody's misled. So he's like trying to prove something to us that he doesn't need to prove to us that the square root of 2 isn't 2. We believe that along with you, Terrence. We agree the square root of 2 isn't 2. However, the difference is that he thinks the square root of 2 is 1. I wonder if this guy has forgotten about fractional numbers, because like kind of seems like with this whole chain, he kind of went like, here's another thing that I think went wrong. 4, half of it is its square root. So 2, he was like, okay, half of it should be its square root. But, you know, there's some fractional numbers that might come in handy, like the one that's actually the square root of 2. Well, okay, let's look a little further into page 3. Well, what this guy's saying is, I call on all the elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. I call to all, oh wait, I need to shrink this. Sorry, I wasn't even showing this. Sorry. You guys don't even know. I love live streaming for like sometimes 2 hours, and it's fun. It's like build my community, make extra content for people later, almost get free therapy to chat about my life. But doing that in a way where I get into the groove of like, we are live streamed Domotro for 2 hours. We're having fun live streaming. I can't really do that and think about the tech. So every like 10 minutes, I'm like, oh yeah, the tech. I wasn't, the screen's wrong or whatever. So I'm just also not a tech guy. I am very old fashioned. You know, we like our old stuff around here, our abakai and such. Now, he says he calls to all the nursery school teachers and kindergarten teachers. I call upon all the schools of higher learning. This guy couldn't even run a spell checker on the proof. Higher learning and all of the thinking branches of academia to do an immediate audit upon this false statement of 1 × 1 equal parentheses ing and parentheses 1. After thoughtful reflection and literally thousands of hours of observation. Here's the thing. When you're a couple 100 hours deep into your exploration on something, check with a few other people. I think this guy's wife might have been doing this with him. I forget if I read that or not, but check with multiple other people who aren't just your yes men or yes women or whatever who tell you, oh, that's okay to whatever. Like, check with multiple people who are going to actually give you good criticism before you put in 1,000 hours on something. It's, trust me, I can be introverted. I'll have books probably that I spend 1,000 hours before I show anyone, but on most projects and on a mathematical thing, I recommend checking with somebody after your first 10 or 20 hours. See what you need to edit before you put in the next 10 or 20 hours. Now, after thoughtful reflection and literally thousands of hours. Also, I forgot the chat. I will get to the chat in a minute. If anyone's left any questions or whatever, I am going to answer whatever you've left in the chat after we go through this. Now, okay, I'm just going to speed run this. After thoughtful reflection and literally thousands of hours of observation, coupled with 5 decades of deep and contemplative work on the subject, it has brought me on the inevitable conclusion that this false concept must have been the brainchild of a godlike figure of some sort, someone whom the people possibly credited for giving them the multiplication table and geometry, a gift that set the... So, whoa, this is a wild conclusion. So, you know, maybe here's, okay, how about this? If you're going to have your proof lead to a proof that it starts off with numbers, and by the end you're trying to prove something about physics or God or something, put that in the first paragraph. Warn the people, you know, warn the people that you're going to take a left turn into trying to prove things about philosophy and reality and nature and things like that. Religion, you know. Now, this would be a great paragraph if it was edited a little better and, you know, spell checked and stuff. This would be a great couple paragraphs for like a fiction book. You know, if you're less addicted to the thoughts having to be something I've proven true about reality. It's like the sunken cost fallacy. You ever heard of that? Putting a bunch of hours on something, the next hour you're more likely to do because you've already invested so many hours. You know, it makes sense. It's like, if kind of like if you have a friend, if you're like, you have a friend who kind of annoys you, but you've already like spent like, I don't have this. My friends are very awesome. But if you had a friend that kind of annoyed you, then you would maybe like after 20 hours, if you had spent that much time, be more likely to be like, all right, I'm going to spend the 21st hour, because almost like you don't want to admit to yourself that the first 20 hours weren't the best use of your time. And of course, you're not always going to make the best use of your time. Your life would be so boring and overly practical if you tried to maximize the best use of my time at every second. But, you know, people, when they've done something, they don't like to feel like I wasted my time. And so they're more likely to decide that it was good to continue. So I believe that is at play here as well. This guy sinking a year of 17 hours a day is a lot more likely to make the next year be like, Well, if I quit now, what did I spend my last year on? So, very interesting thoughts that have nothing to do with the proof. More interesting thoughts that also have nothing to do with the proof. And just so many funny techniques in this. He like swore in the last one. Here he capitalizes stuff randomly. Or all sorts of weird stuff going on here. And on the final page, we might come back to that in a bit, but just to see how it wraps up first. When 1 times 1 equals 1, it's implied that 50% of the potential will be lost at the initial contact. He's assuming that the ones we're using in this equation are like this unit that is like food, and we need like an equal amount of food on each side or something. If you really wanted that, then let's add plus 0, or if you don't like that, I guess we could add plus 1 over 1, although that would be more ones. Or no, wait, plus 1 over 1, and then here we'll put plus 1. Then there will be 3 ones on each side. 1 plus 1 times 1 equals 1 plus 1 divided by 1. 3 ones on each side, Terrence. Checkmate. Now, anyway, he's saying all this weird stuff, you know. We lose half of the potential. It feels to him like you should have the same amount on each side. Should have the same amount of terms. Now, if you had to have the same amount of terms on each side, and the sides had to be equal, equations would be pretty limited for what they would possibly be useful for. You'd be able to maybe scramble it up with bigger things, but like, why would you ever use like A times B equals C times D if you like know that has to fit because any of them missing is this loss? I don't know how to explain that thought, but like I said, I recommend thinking through what contradictions you'd hit with this. Similarly, what contradictions might you hit if we say 1 divided by 0 equals h, and I'm letting h in the mix. Or maybe I'm going to say I'm adding something new to I. The square root of I is no longer what it's normally defined as. The square root of I is a new thing called z. Well, see what contradictions you might find in those cases. Now, here, it says a false axiom that unfortunately for us is the cornerstone of... He's saying that he thinks everybody's been taught this unbalanced thing, but he doesn't really clarify how we take it further with his version. It's sort of like him just saying, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. It's wrong, it's wrong. But if multiplication should mean keep the same amount, then add that many more, does that mean that 2 times 3 equals 8? Like, he doesn't take this further to any degree to say what, out of any other equation apart from 1 times 1, how does this affect the others, Terrence? Because it's not gonna fit very well. Now, he's like going back to this historical stuff. Someone found it necessary to put a cap on the Mesopotamian civilization's potential. What? All right, now here, we get to near the end. We'll read the last few sentences. When 1 times 1 equals 2, we have a balanced equation where the laws of universal equilibrium and the conservation of universal energy remain intact. He's bringing up new terms every single time. Like, I swear he has not said universal equilibrium before in the paper or conservation of universal energy. It's like every page is a new term that gets thrown in that's sort of like the mood of what he's feeling there. Would make for a good fiction book, not a good proof. Now, that's most of that. It's not all we can find about teriology necessarily, but that's most of this proof. I could have read every single word, but he was ranting on. I didn't need to read every single word. He was repeating himself a bit. So, I hope you enjoyed that portion. I may stick around for a moment to chat a little bit and look at the chat and such, but that was the main portion of what I wanted to look at for our proofs and such. I think I'm going to run back inside just for a moment. I need to grab a little more water and just take a breather from all this teriology for like 2 minutes. I will be back in about 2 minutes, and we're just going to chat about some other stuff that will relate to the concept of what went wrong here and what could go wrong in other circumstances. And I will look at the chat then. So, you know, these streams are Q&As as well, if anyone has any questions. All right, Combo Lords, I have returned to chat with anyone who's around and share a few more stories or anecdotes or facts or such. We are on the chiller portion of this stream. If anyone does leave early once we just start chatting and such, now that I might abandon our teriology to a degree. If you do abandon us, remember that linked in the description, that Friendly Numbers episode, you got to see that fun one. I took some field trips and taught a lot of number facts and a lot of chaos as well. And in the next episode, I'm excited about this one. It might take me through the weekend to do it. I'm not sure how long, how much I'm going to be able to get done tomorrow on it. But maybe I'll be able to finish all the filming tomorrow and then edit it Friday. We'll see. But it has a few scenes. One I mentioned relates to blackberry patches. And the blackberry patches is only a minute or two of the episode, but it's quite fun. And there's also prime numbers. We will look at a few facts we've already discussed as a refresher about primes, and also a new fact about arithmetic progressions. And we will combine these into how it relates to blackberry patches, those, and I don't have these here anymore, but magic cards. Yes, I did. I was geeking out about the old game I used to play as a kid and looking for math in it. And I found a way to put it in the episode. It fit perfectly. So I found my chance to put a thing about magic cards for 5 minutes in a main episode. It's about a thing called infinite combos that almost everyone who plays Magic calls them infinite combos, but they should not. They should be calling them arbitrarily large combos, and nobody knows. So although this won't be in the title and thumbnail, if you got any friends who play Magic the Gathering, make sure they watch my next main combo class episode on the combo class channel, because there's a big misconception there, it seems. All right, now I'm going to actually go through some of our chats. I love you all so much for joining me. A lot of the people who left these comments are probably already gone, but I still appreciate all of you. You're my combo lords for joining me. Make sure that you join for whatever will continue to come, especially on the Combo Class channel, and to see if there's any questions in particular to answer. I can't answer all of the cool comments. We got a lot of random chatting here, but do appreciate you all. Just scrolling through these right now. And lots of interesting ones. Some people are noting elements are conserved and can't be removed. So there is conservation of mass. But conservation of mass, we can't just freely throw into the realm of real numbers. We can think, how does conservation of mass apply to 1 + 1? But we can't just say conservation of mass holds in the real numbers, and this is what it means in that scale. It could mean any number of things. He decided it meant how many terms were on each side had to be conserved. Now, he's on interesting thoughts, like I said. If he had only called this a hypothesis and been way less cocky in his phrasings and spell checked it a bit, and, put it a little less like he was proving something about math and more like he was creating an alternate, fun interpretation, then it would be a cool paper to publish. But we gotta roast anybody who tells somebody a wrong thing about math and is super cocky to anybody who tries to correct it and replies. That's how we are around here. I'm not afraid. If I got to be the bad guy, if everyone's mad at me for roasting whoever does the wrong proofs, oh, they were just trying to make a proof. Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to shut down those wrong proofs so that we get the real facts in the mix, so that we can keep building our knowledge with the real facts and eradicate the falseness. I believe in honesty, and like I said, it almost holds even more so in math that you must be brutally honest with what you have deduced and proven or not. Conversationally, memory is weird, so sometimes we accidentally exaggerate things or such, but make sure that you don't intentionally lie to people. It's a weird habit a lot of people have, and it's a bad habit. I think honesty is a very important moral. So remember, folks, try not to lie. It's like, if you lie less, at first you'll feel, in fact, I never lie now, and it almost gets me in trouble because I'm too honest, or I just tell people what's going on and they don't relate or connect or agree or whatever. But veer toward that. It makes me happier. I'm way happier to be completely honest, and then some people get mad at me, than to if you're going to dodge conversationally to like make sure that everyone's happy in the conversation, don't do it with dishonesty. That's like one of the only things I would get really mad at people about. Like, genuinely, if one of my friends like breaks one of my things or calls me a name or is super late, I'll forgive them pretty quick. But I'll barely be even genuinely mad at all. But if somebody lies to me, then I need to have a talk with them about why they did it, and I'm going to have a, harsh talk with them. Because honesty is actually important, and the aliens will appreciate it, so that when all of the strange aliens watching us with telescopes, either now or in the future, half joking with this, but only half joking with this, when all the strange aliens watch us with their telescopes and see parts of the Earth, it'll be easier for them to transcribe some cool history books and sitcoms and stuff like that. They need to know which sitcoms to call fiction versus nonfiction. Remember, the aliens are watching Combo Class, perhaps, and their version of Combo Class is different than the one I cut. There's the version I cut of Combo Class episodes, and the bits that leak out in live streams and bonus content, and the bits that you folks don't see. But the aliens are probably watching a sitcom where whenever I say something I think is wise, it's like a laugh track type moment, like humans are so dumb. And whenever I say something that like once in a while I just say like a random statement that turns out to be really profound for them and is like the end of the episode or something. And they probably also include a lot of moments where I like stub my toe and stuff. I actually include those too, so I guess me and the aliens have those in common. I definitely include any moment where I accidentally hurt myself on set. Now, to anybody who worries that people get hurt on set, they don't. My camera people are very happy about all the chaos. They often are the ones recommending it, and I do not light all the fires and shatter all the clocks till I've made sure my camera people are down. And in fact, the only injury I've ever gotten on this set, basically, maybe I've gotten a few scratches since then, like little cuts on clocks, miniature things. Got a little scratch on a BlackBerry the other day, but like that BlackBerry Vine, that's nothing. But the only main one I got is in the episode about spiky shapes. Watch that sometime later if you haven't seen it on Combo Class. I step on the old broken grade -1 desk and it snapped in a way I completely didn't expect. Okay, how about this? Leave a guess. Out of all the crazy stuff that falls in Combo Class, what % of it do you think I had some idea it was going to fall because I like put it somewhere weird or knew it was unsturdy? And which ones do you think completely caught me by surprise? It's hard to gauge, but it might be about 50-50. Sometime in the next episode, there's an example of one where the very first thing that falls in the episode, me and Carlo mildly set it up to do that, although I still didn't know when it was going to fall and still caught me by surprise, so I still am like, whoa, reaction. But like my reactions of jumping are pretty genuine because it's hard to tell when or where stuff's going to fall, even if you like put it somewhere unsturdy. But the first thing that fell was intentional, but then I just like kept talking because I was like, okay, how long can I make this intro shot work really well? And we're getting this good intro shot and other stuff kept falling that I was not expecting. So I was just like, keep going, deliver a good intro. And so we got it. The first like minute and a half of the next episode is just one shot where multiple chaoses, many of which I had no idea were coming. Now, I think it's fun to do that. Yeah, be careful. Obviously, don't copy me. I do this for all of us. All the chaos, the clocks falling and stuff like that. I do it for all of us, meaning that as a group, we only need to see one of us test these experiments. And I'm the one doing it. So you don't need to test any of these experiments of like what happens when a clock shatters on your foot or like what happens when you blow up a globe or whatever. I will test these things for all of us. And do not copy. If for some reason you don't listen to my advice and you copy it, do be careful because I'm a little surprised I haven't gotten hurt more than that one time in Combo Class, but maybe I'm just really good at dodging clocks. And I was going to note that Carlo has basically never gotten hurt, and he got his first like injury, which wasn't even on set. It was separately. We were just looking around in this small attic in the house, and he got a splinter in the attic. Technically, he was on the clock. I was paying him for that time. So he got a splinter on the clock. Oh, squirrel. But that's like the only injury anyone's gotten here. We're good at dodging fire and stuff. We're safer than it looks. To people who only watch the live streams, they might not know like how much chaos there is, but most of the main episodes have a few pretty wild moments. Now, squirrel, squirrel. Someone might have even seen it before. They might have seen it go in there, and I see a comment about the squirrel. So, let's see what else we got in our fun comments here. I don't know if we need this in the background. Maybe we'll throw a fun graph in the background instead, just because, you know, we're done with Terryology for a minute. All right, Terry thought that he had proved 1 + 1 was 2. We will maybe loop back to this later in the stream. We'll maybe make a whole bonus video analyzing exactly why his math is wrong. But for now, I think we've had our fill of Terryology, of, you know, we can go back to knowing that 1 × 1 = 1 works a lot better. So, and that is something to remember, that it's not that 1 × 1 = 1 is right. It's that it has far fewer inconsistencies and contradictions in the system it creates. So it works better, more than it's the right one. So sometimes people go too far in being like, well, no, you're wrong because, like, for example, point infinite nines is 1. That's another example of like, yes, it is, but it's not because it has to be. It's because it works way better in our system if point infinite nines = 1 than if we either don't allow an infinite amount of digits in a decimal, or if we make an infinitesimal but try and use the rules of the real numbers. That'll be its own episode sometime. Now, this is just a weird little burst, but as we've seen, we can do really wacky stuff. Oh, that's because I'm really far out. That's because I'm at like 500. This might not just be a weird burst. This might actually be something pretty wild and cool. But I don't know, the secant, this is a double secant. I feel like that made too much. Let's try a secant with a sine. Okay, that was too much. We need to eliminate this a little lower. Let's do this one instead. This is a simpler little beauty, just to have something nice in the background. Like I said, I'll be fiddling with the graphs, maybe I hinted earlier, but it's not like a graph stream as much. We've already done a lot of graph streams recently, so this will more just be like a fun backdrop for us to have some cool visuals while we chat for a little bit longer. We're not going to do the stream hyper long because this is the second stream I did today. I was up pretty early. I was going to do a sunrise stream, but then I was like, I explained that in the last stream. I ended up doing one stream with squirrels, and this is our second one because I didn't fit any mathematics in that last one, and it was more of like a nature appreciation than either math or maybe not even as much humor either. So I was like, we need to get our fix of math and humor. How can we do that? Proofs that 1 × 1 = 2. So I love you all for joining me, and I might actually wrap this up on the sooner end. Feel free to ask any last questions, requests, or whatever. Somebody recently requested in a comment after the stream, which you can always comment after the stream, and that actually, I think, helps the channel more. They never promote the streams. I just do these for fun and to create content for you guys, but the streams do not help the channel grow. Each stream, like, literally is like +3 subscribers, -3 subscribers, broke even, or like something like that. Like, the streams don't get that many viewers who aren't already my viewers, and a few people might even unsubscribe, but not that many, so they don't change much. They're just a cool content for me. And like I said, I got to admit, it's sort of like a free therapy in a way, because I get to talk about all my crazy problems to you folks without having to pay a therapist. Ha ha ha. So, Sorry about that when I get extra ranty about personal things. But this is my bonus channel. This channel, in fact, is almost 1 year old. 4 days from now will be 1 year from when I created this channel, and about a week from now will be 1 year from when I first posted on this channel. I'd filmed some of the shorts for this channel from a little longer, so I'd been filming footage that ended up on this channel for about 1 1/3 years, about 4/3 of a year. But it's not even 1 year since the channel was created. And we're at 172,000, which every time I see stuff like that is just mind-blowing and awesome. I like, it hasn't fully sunk in. Often, I don't really mention it until people ask, like, what do you do for a living? Like, people who have family members, like extended family or like old friends who I haven't seen much, like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I make cool educational videos. I get to I'm kind of, I shifted out of being a music teacher not that long ago, actually, sort of, making not that much money and hoping to build my educational weird channels. And then their next question is like, how many subscribers or views do you have? And it's hard to even answer that without sounding like it's bragging, but that means that's good. That means our channels are doing awesome. And thank you all so much for the help. I promise you all that not only do I plan to post on this channel and the Combo Class channel in various forms, this channel will have more of a variety of weirder content, like including music and field trips and stuff like that. But I plan on posting on both of the channels for a long time, and I also still have all the best ideas unfilmed. The most grandiose ideas to me, I have not yet been able to compile into an episode I felt ready to film. These big concepts that I've been working on for a long time. And some of them, I might just go all the way into treating them like a big project and spend maybe there'll be a month where there's only 1 or 2 episodes, but they're like an hour long. And there's a few concepts I really envision that I could imagine making an hour-long episode about. So that could be an experiment in the future. For now, the next few episodes will probably be on the main Combo Class channel, like 10 to 20 minute things. On this channel, I'm still procrastinating, properly processing to upload a bunch of shorts I've filmed. Some of the shorts that are going to end up here are the ones I'm moving from the old Combo Class channel. So sorry, there might be a couple that you see twice because it didn't make sense in the algorithm for me to keep any on that channel. But just for the shorts. But other ones, I filmed a few other shorts. They're not completely math ones, but I hope you folks like the nature weird shorts too a little bit, because I filmed one about a weird type of weed that I found interesting as a child that you can do something fun with, one about my weird potatoes, one about a skunk that visited the classroom, and a few like that. And I'm back on track to start going through my old notes, and if I search short in some of my documents, I'll use words like that to sort of keyword things I want to be able to look up. Like if I use episode topic. If I search episode topic in certain documents, they'll be like the 200 times that I've written episode topic idea blank or whatever. And if I search short, they'll be like, the 500 times, only half of which I've used so far of like, this could be a cool short. So I'm going to start going through that list and getting some more cool stuff. To anyone who's on the Patreon, sorry I've been so late at the bonus footage there too. Same thing where I have a bunch on my computer I just need to process, and I'm not the best at editing. So this branch, I'm just going to bite my, clench my fists or whatever and get through the editing somehow in a way to make it look good. I find a way to make my Combo Class episodes look good, but I'm sure another editor would do them quicker than me. I like having some control. So if I work with other editors, I like to go back and forth on a few drafts with, I get to say, let's change this or do this, add this there, or switch the soundtrack or whatever, But I feel like other editors in general could edit stuff so much faster than me because I'm old fashioned. So I like want it to be a good audio level and be the right proportion. And it takes me like a million years to double check all those little annoying things of like, okay, yes, I got the audio level similar to the other stuff. I got this and that. Oh boy. I'm an ideas guy. I'm not the tech guy. In any case, we pulled off another live stream, folks. Another pair of live streams. If anything, a lot of you probably missed the morning one. If you're bored later, you could watch the other one on the live tab here, where I showed a few random props, showed old footage of a squirrel, and then a new squirrel visited and did something even cooler. So, fun stuff going on there. I've been really enjoying these live streams. I'll be back in another day or two. Probably, it ends up being somewhere from 1 day to 3-ish days between these things. But I will also be posting more horizontal bonus videos before too long on this channel as well. Mostly make sure you're tuned into the Combo Class channel. And if anyone has any extra budget, it does really help those awesome people on Patreon who are named in the description, and certain tiers get their name in whiteboard credits of full episodes. But those people, and they're going to get more bonus footage in future months as I get more on schedule with uploading all the bonus stuff that I have ready. But that really helps because we're growing and I need help from like my camera people, and I like to pay my camera people. And so, there's a certain amount of hours that my budget can hire them. And like my main guy, Carlo, works great with me. He will do practically any mission. Like I hired him to walk really far the other day so we could, with me, like part of the job was we're walking a few miles, which he was down with, to get to this blackberry patch where we filmed at, and then walk a few miles back and then see what clocks are ready to fall and such. But with more money, that's like the main thing that I will do as our budget expands, is just hire more people to help me throughout the week. It also motivates me because I can get introverted and sit in my room and just like, take little notes on my computer all day that I don't even know if I'll ever come back to the notes. As opposed to when other people are around, I feel like obligated to bring out my quick self or something, like my extra Domotro-y self. So it helps when I have teammates around. I'm like, what are we going to get done? So, sometimes if you're an introvert, you might want to force yourself to be in extroverted situations like that. I have found myself in a strange one where I'm trusting myself to be my own boss in terms of continuing my trends of not caring about spending money on anything except Combo Class, which is sort of how I am because I cook most of my own food at home, which is cheaper than eating out, and I don't have a car, and I live with my parents and stuff like that. So I'm investing all the money in Combo Class, and the other thing is that I have to trust myself to try and make and sometimes do all the editing on a new episode every week or two, which I don't have to. I could do one once a month, but then I wouldn't feel proud enough. I like doing them every week or two. And when I have a good enough team, we'll be all the way down to one every 6 days, because 6 is our lucky number in Combo Class. And one every 6 days would be kind of funny, because it would be less than once a week, but the day it dropped would change. So, first we'll try and get to a point where I can drop them once a week, and then we could tighten it up even further and have one every 6 days. Although some of those might be longer mathematical topics, and others are going to delve into other realms. We're going to do music theory. We're going to do nature. We haven't done full episodes about nature, but maybe we'll do a camping tutorial. Maybe we'll do things about rare types of plants we try and seek out or grow. Maybe we'll do one about potatoes at some point for sure. Maybe we'll do one depending what the squirrels do next. Maybe at some point we'll have enough cool footage, including all the ones you haven't seen yet, to make an episode about how I befriended the neighborhood squirrels. In any case, I'm going to log off here because I'm sort of ranting at this point. Those were the topics that I had planned and the tabs I had open. I have some other editing and stuff to work on, and I should also just eat some late lunch. But I love you all. Thank you for joining me for this type of thing. Tune in to all the stuff in the description and whatever you see pop up in the future. Extra subscribe to the Combo Class channel, and hopefully you like being subscribed to this one as well. And hope you all have a great day and stuff. hope that any of the stuff we have learned today makes you laugh and or be ready to be skeptical of things that call themselves proofs, but in like a open way, in a way where when I see something that claims it's a proof, I'm not like angry at it, except in sort of a comical way. It's I feel the need to poke fun at something that calls it a proof when it's not. But, you know, that's me. Some would call that me just being a combo classhole. I don't know. But, I don't know. Some things are good for the world. And I'm a nice person at heart. So, Terrence, if for some reason Terrence Howard sees us in the future after our combo stuff blows up, you might want to get some therapy, man, and you might want to turn your stuff into fiction instead of saying it's nonfiction. But, you know, all power to you. You're doing some interesting thinking. Doing more thinking than some people out there. So, I would love to have an interview with someone like that. That would be an ideal guest for me. And I'm not good at tech, so I can't figure out like the connecting to guests and stuff. My first guests on live streams are going to be friends who come here in the actual set. However, if anybody out there watching this even thinks that they have a very strange skill or topic that they love or some quirk that the live stream would find interesting if I were to chat with that person or ask them some questions back and forth, well, feel free to message me. I've been bad at getting back to my emails, but I'm going to work on that over the course of this next week. Sorry to people who I don't get back to on emails and stuff. I get introverted and nervous and stuff. I force myself to do extroverted things, but sometimes I get nervous and just go in my own notebooks with my cats and my notebooks and stuff. But I'm going to get better at that and force myself to go out into the world and do crazy stuff. That was partially because I had those injuries last year, so I got used to being stuck at home. And I am no longer stuck at home. We can walk again now, as you'll see in the next episode, because we take a field trip. So, somebody says interviewing this kind of person would be a nightmare. It's true. With many people like this, what you would like to be a debate doesn't work as a debate because they can be a brick wall. They can be so adamant in their beliefs that they're fighting more with emotion than logic. And I think, honestly, I would want to debate someone like this more because I think it would be funny than because I think it would be educational. But I do also think it would show us a lot about humanity. All of these things we see here are strange tests of humans. What happens to a human after he sits with a dozen clocks and a strange calculator and abaci and globes and squirrels? Who knows? I guess we'll have to see next time.